OpenAI CEO Sam Altman told a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Tuesday his biggest fear is the AI industry causing significant harm to the world. He noted the technology could be used to generate misinformation and interfere with elections. To discuss the risks and dangers of AI, we bring in a tech expert. Jessica Malugin is the director of the Center for Technology and Innovation at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Good morning, Jessica. There is a lot of talk about AI bias. Now, can you start by explaining what that is first, and what its risks are?
So there's a couple different layers and some things that people are talking about and grouping together. But one are actual criminal activities, fraud. It's a big concern with the election security, and of course politicians are especially focused on that. But the bias question is just that it happens to be that the set of information that some of these systems were trained on might contain bias information, or perhaps how the algorithm was set contains bias information. So you might not be getting a very objective answer when you ask some of these language models a question.
Now, some urge Congress to learn from the past experiences with social media. Now, what lessons are we talking about here, and how do they apply here?
Well, I think, once again, one of the things that we heard in the hearing that politicians are concerned about is what effect this technology can have on our elections. So we look back on the Facebook controversy and what influence foreign governments had or didn't have. Those questions, by the way, are sort of still unsettled. But I think that's what they have in mind when they bring up security concerns with AI in terms of democracy here in the U.S. So that's one of the things they're concerned about. And really, we're at the beginning of this technology. We really don't know what challenges or problems we face, just like we didn't really know that with social media. But I think the question before the hearing is, do we want to regulate first and perhaps give up a lot of the benefits of this technology in the hopes that we're regulating against the same future risks? Or do we want to let the technology roll out, start walking down this road of progress, and then deal with whatever challenges present themselves as we go?
So what's your proposal? Like, how should we deal with this uncertainty?
Well, I think we need to remember and look back at history, not just the failures of regulation as some people see it, but also the lessons of how new technology comes into our lives. No matter what it is, whether it was the bicycle, the printing press, there's always people who say, this is it, this is the end of the world, this changes everything. But of course, that's not how it happens, right? New jobs are made when others probably are destroyed. A lot of jobs with AI will be greatly improved in terms of quality of life for workers. And I would say, let's just walk cautiously. We need to be talking about this. Industry needs to be in touch with regulators, but let's not over-regulate at the beginning and sort of rob ourselves of what all the upside could be before we know what the problems are.
Great insights. Thank you so much for your take on this, Jessica Malugin. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good to have you back. Mental Health Awareness Month is underway, and Americans across the country are paying attention to common conditions like anxiety and depression. For many, striking a work-life balance is key to their psychological well-being. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
I'm swamped. She's a workaholic. I need a vacation. We've all heard these phrases before. Americans work hard, but sometimes too hard, and that can lead to burnout. According to statistics from job website Zippia, 83% of Americans say work stress has a negative impact on their relationships.
When people start becoming workaholics, like 48% of the Americans say they start identifying with their work and the responsibilities there, as opposed to identifying with their relationship, or again, going back to who they are.
Lots of people identify with their career. So what do? We've all heard this question before at social gatherings or on dates. But dating and relationship coach Patrick Ryan stresses that people are much more than their job.
When we're doing nothing but working, or that's what we identify with, it becomes unfulfilling, becomes very empty, very lonely. And that can cause depression and a lot of other issues.
It's easy to make mistakes when trying to maintain a work-life balance. Ryan emphasizes that work, and a partner for that matter, are important, but they're individual details in a much larger picture.
The second thing is purpose. We all have to have purpose in our lives. And purpose is so important to give us value and to make us, or at least give us an opportunity to be happy and fulfilled.
Ryan adds that there's a misconception that a relationship will make you happy, but self-care and individual fulfillment are just as crucial to psychological well-being.
I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to balance their life between work and pleasure, let's call it, is not taking care of themselves.
Work ethic is important, and it's critical for success in any career. But when the job starts affecting your personal relationships, re-examining your work-life balance could be in order. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And how can the U.S. defend itself and counter economic aggression from the Chinese Communist Party or CCP? That's what lawmakers in Washington aimed to find out yesterday in a hearing called Leveling the Playing Field. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the hearing and testimony from witnesses.
The Select Committee will come to order. Welcome, everyone.
The bipartisan group of lawmakers of the Committee on the CCP agree the economic threat from the Chinese Communist Party is one that cannot be ignored. Republican Chairman Mike Gallagher says it's time to stop admiring the problem and actually get down to solutions.
We need to stop fueling our own destruction. This means we shouldn't fund PLA modernization, we should protect our sensitive research and critical technologies, and not sacrifice national security for short-term profits.
Gallagher says it's time to take off the golden blindfolds and open our eyes to the risks in China.
American businesses shouldn't be complicit in the CCP's ongoing genocide, and American capital should not fuel human rights abuses.
The chairman declared it's time to reinforce economic sovereignty and reshore critical supply chains. Democratic ranking member Raja Krishnamurthy says the U.S. needs to protect itself from unfair and competitive trade practices by the CCP. He suggested what he calls the 3 Ps to put America back on track to win the strategic competition.
People, production, and partnership.
3 witnesses testified. They gave a long list of examples of how the CCP has been waging economic warfare on the U.S. for decades. Ambassador Robert Lighthizer.
They reduce their cost of manufacturing by taking advantage of very low environmental standards. They target U.S. businesses and are trying to monopolize the supply of critical minerals in the world. In short, if this is not economic war, what is?
Roger Robinson, former Reagan national security official, took aim at Wall Street and U.S. regulators, describing what he called arguably the largest strategic financial scandal in modern history. He says roughly 5,000 publicly traded CCP-controlled companies, many involved in egregious human rights and national security abuses, have been allowed to enter retirement and investment fund portfolios with little to no screening for decades.
There are well over 100 million Americans holding the stocks and bonds of U.S.-sanctioned and other Chinese corporate bad actors. Do we really believe that the American people would have wanted to be holding unwittingly the stocks and bonds of Soviet companies or those supporting Nazi Germany?
Robinson says CCP enterprises should be delisted and deregistered from U.S. exchanges, and Congress must take action to make it happen. Committee members are traveling to the UK Thursday to coordinate with British officials to more effectively counter China's communist regime. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Welcome back. Florida and Texas both took legal steps yesterday that they say will protect children. The states addressed cross-sex procedures on minors, pronouns in the classroom, and other issues. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the new legislation.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a package of bills called Let Kids Be Kids. The first bill prohibits cross-sex procedures and puberty blockers for children. It also allows people to sue for damages if they were injured or killed after such procedures, or after receiving puberty blockers or other related drugs as minors.
You have a movement amongst, I would say, rogue elements of the medical establishment to do things that is basically the mutilation of minors.
The next bill addresses gender identity politics in schools. It stops students from having to declare their pronouns in school.
We never did this through all of human history until 2 weeks ago. Now this is something they're having third graders declare pronouns. We're not doing the pronoun Olympics in Florida. It's not happening here.
The bill also bans classroom instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity through 8th grade. A third bill prohibits kids from attending sexually explicit adult performances.
If you are an establishment that's having adult performances, you have an obligation to make sure that these young kids are not permitted in the premises.
The bill authorizes revoking the alcohol or operating licenses of hotels or restaurants if they admit a child into such a performance. Over in Texas, the state legislature passed a bill banning hormones, puberty blockers, and cross-sex procedures for minors. The bill would also prohibit physicians from removing the breasts of minors or performing surgeries that would sterilize a child or remove otherwise healthy tissue or body parts. It would also prohibit doctors from prescribing drugs that would cause infertility. Opponents are criticizing the bill as a political attack on the transgender community. They say it would stop people from receiving care needed to address gender dysphoria. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
And a resolution to expel embattled GOP Representative George Santos from Congress is heading to the House Ethics Committee. Democrats moved to force a floor vote on Tuesday. The House voted mostly along party lines to refer the resolution to the ethics panel yesterday, 221 to 204. Santos made it clear to reporters after the vote that he has no intention of resigning, but not without some drama on the Capitol steps. Watch.
Here's a procedure. You can't be judge, jury, and executioner. I have a right, a constitutional right to defend myself, and I will do that.
You gotta go, man. Come on.
How's your ethics play going? Aren't you in ethics too, AOC? Come on. Look, I can't continue to address you guys because there's a deranged member here.
Impeach Biden. Impeach Biden. No more QAnon. No more MAGA. No more CNN.
Santos is facing 13 federal charges of fraud, money laundering, and theft of public funds. He denies the charges and has pleaded not guilty. If you pay taxes, this may be big news. The IRS is testing out its own free tax filing system. So people who are currently paying companies like H&R Block and TurboTax to do their taxes may soon be able to do it for free. NTD's Arlene Richards has more.
The IRS is trying to create Direct File, a free voluntary IRS-run electronic tax filing system. Americans spend billions of dollars on tax services, and the IRS believes this could save them some money. IRS Commissioner Danny Werfel says this kind of system is already used by numerous tax jurisdictions around the world. An IRS report found that a significant majority, 72%, are interested out of over 4,000 people surveyed.
For a lot of people, it's a good thing. You know, I'm not really, I'm kind of happy that the IRS is moving in a positive direction, like becoming more technologically advanced. So it makes it a little bit easier for us.
Paul Miller is a financial professional and the founder of Miller & Company, LLP. Miller says Direct File may take away business from companies like H&R Block and TurboTax and even his own accounting firm. But he's glad if people can save money on their taxes. However, he does see a problem.
What about your state tax return? You can file your federal return, but how are you filing your state tax return? Does that make sense? So they're going to have to some way coordinate with the 50 states and sync it up.
It's still very early on, and the IRS hasn't given specific details. For example, we don't know who exactly is eligible for the plan. We also don't know who'll be allowed to test out the program first. The IRS expects to launch a pilot program in 2024. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
The State House in Texas yesterday also voted to move forward a measure regarding athletes in public colleges. It would require them to compete based on their sex.
Former NCAA swimmer Riley Gaines testified on that topic before Congress on Tuesday. Gaines said a locker room was made unisex for the sake of inclusivity. Gaines competed against Leah Thomas as an NCAA swimmer. Thomas is a male who identifies as female. Gaines says that Thomas undressed in front of her and her female teammates. This happened as Gaines and others were also undressing. Gaines complained about the matter to an NCAA official. According to Gaines, the official told her they got around the issue by making the locker rooms unisex.
So this meant that any man could have walked into our locker room, not just a self-identifying female. Any man, any coach, any parent, any official, any man who wanted to would have had full access to, and bare minimum, we weren't forewarned.
Gaines says Leah Thomas's teammates from the University of Pennsylvania sent an email to their administration to express their discomfort. She said they responded by offering them counseling resources to deal with their discomfort of seeing male genitalia. And Dee reached out to the university, and we will get back to you with any updates.